And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. We're back. Homeroom. We've been doing this walk down, and if you haven't, I would recommend, for maybe personal bias reasons, that you go back and check out the beginning of this series on screen time. We have unpacked a lot, and I am officially at the midway week, and it's time to assign some blame. It is time to start making accountability partners here. So thank you for coming. This is Homeroom in Educator's House. It is a far more organic experience than the full formal conferences that we do on Sundays. Hey, Macy, I'm going to invite you up, but it's a no pressure space. I just got started. Um, we have examined what is going on in our brains with these screens and how it's associated to our evolutionary biology. We have talked to a licensed clinical social worker who has helped us to understand how these screens affect not only our mental health and well-being, but our development over time. And during that conference, we described and discussed how to define balance with screens. A lot of our parents who've come into the community have had some concerns about this issue of balance, especially if their kids already have a device. It's a struggle to unwind, right, to put the genie back in the bottle, as James Dennison described it at our last conference. Let me put the link up in case anyone in this live wants to join us over on YouTube. While I'm doing it, I can just tell you, if you go to YouTube at Educator's House, all one word, you're going to find us live streaming. And I've got a few clips. Ooh, I got some clips for y'all today. So back in the bottle. Let me copy this link for you, and I'll post it up here at the top in case if you know that you're in listen only mode, then just watching the YouTube might be helpful, because like I said, I've got clips. I got some Jordan Peterson clips in here. I've got some, what's that cat that does the Diary of a CEO? I have some of him up in here today, and then I have a couple shorter Instagram clips as well. So in terms of where we've been, we have let me move forward to, then we did this journey on the actual technology. So what we've recently just finished was what's up with Coco Melon. If any of you guys have or know of, hey Key, I'm going to send you an invite in case you want to come up. No pressure space. I know it's a morning show, so you got things to do. What happens with our little toddlers? Oh man, with Coco Melon, it's all designed to hook them in and get them started early, and some research says that it actually has permanent effects on the brain itself. Then we moved over to the gaming world. After they move out of the toddler stage, then for Christmas, they get their first gaming system. So whether that's Roblox or Minecraft on the computer, maybe it's Fortnite or one of these large, what they call MMOs, massive multiplayer online games, where there's just this whole world and you interact with strangers under the guise of an avatar, and those strangers can represent themselves in any way. But we really focused on Roblox because Roblox is a money-making venture. It's not just about selling the game. It's about getting your kids to become the game designers. Which begs the question, does that mean that they're engaged in child labor? Hey, Veta, I'm going to send you and Talia invites as well. No pressure space. I know it's a morning show, so you're probably doing something productive. This community tends to attract the more productive people in the morning because we're actually talking about something. So I appreciate you guys holding space and being here with us. After we finished talking about Roblox, then we went into the algorithm. So we look specifically at TikTok as an example, but it also includes things like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and others. What this algorithm does and how it gets our kids hooked to the degree that they would cut class in order to learn the latest TikTok dance. Now you're talking about nearly a decade potentially of influence by this modern technology. From toddler age, 2 years old to 12 years old. They are significantly influenced. Now, I'm old enough to remember a time when telephones still had the spirally cords connected to the wall. I remember, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys for coming through. I remember, a time when the street lights came on, it was time to come inside, and we was outside. We was outside for the most part, and so things have changed. And what I'm questioning over the course of this series is, should we be worried? And I'll close with this before I get into it, because I know the morning show, we don't have too much time before you got to get back into your productive space. Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say. It was good too. You know what I was gonna say, and I'll transition. The sign of the times. Maybe I'm just old. I remember when I was a kid and NWA and all this gangster rap really first started hitting the scene. The corporatizing of our culture, and the older generation when I was young was like, "Woe is me! The sky is falling. All our kids are going to hell," right? But then I also remember reading history books. And when my parents were young, you're talking about, the hippies of the 60s, and smoking that funny grass and eating those magical mushrooms, and the generation before them said, woe is me, the sky is falling, this is the end of the generation. They're all going to hell. And I'd be willing to bet that if you go back in time, right? So the older generation always feels some type of way about the younger generation. I get that. But I wonder objectively if there's something actually different about this, because this technology is totally revolutionary. It is really pushing ourselves in a way that we've never been pushed before. They are calling it the fourth industrial revolution for a reason, because the last industrial revolution was the factory system, and it changed the nature of the nation. It really did. And so what we're looking at now with the advanced technology, I just have some concerns. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe our kids will turn out just fine. And they'll look, hey, Gregory, you're welcome to join me on stage. But as I've acknowledged, it's a morning show. You're probably busy getting yourself together. So please enjoy the experience. If you want to check out the link, because I will be playing some links, I'll just direct your attention to the marquee up top. It's the live stream of what we're doing today. So anyway, let me get into it. Let me get right into it, because we've got things to do. It's 7 minutes after the hour. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone on YouTube, as well as here on the audio app. All right. Okay. I'm probably going to get copyright stricken, but you know what? I'm not monetized. I don't have enough watch time hours to make any money off of this anyway. So, strike me if you want to. But while this is a young channel, I think we can get right into it. And, consequences come what may. I ain't scared. All right, let me share this screen, and then I'm gonna play Jordan Peterson. He's having a conversation with what's this guy's name, Jordan Haidt, an open critic of what's going on in the space as well. Let me add a screen, and I'm gonna go to this one here. Boom. All right, if you are on YouTube, you'll be able to see, but this particular clip is audio rich. In other words, you'll pretty much catch everything if you're still in audio only. So I think it'll be fine either way, but I know some people are visually stimulated, so it may help to see what's going on the screen. All right, we are getting right into it. Here's where I'm at today. Who's to blame, right? We've laid it all out. And some things came up, actually. I'm sorry, I know I'm digressing, but I hope this is for the good of the group. At the last conference on Sunday, replay is available. Someone else, actually, who's well-researched in this area, talked about the power of culture. I have these notes, but I don't have them in front of me, so I'm not going to waste time trying to find them. But he talked about the strength of culture. And if your culture, whether that's your home culture or your society's culture, is strong enough, the algorithm will not have as much power. But because nature abhors a vacuum, because our culture has been weakened, the algorithm has more room to come in and do its takeover thing. It's almost like what they say in the Christian circles. The devil doesn't have any power unless he's given permission, right? Unless you open up the door or the window to allow this kind of energy in, then there's no way that the enemy can take root, right? He cannot operate without your permission. And so his criticism was, because our society is so fractured, it has created the space. Now, I don't know which comes first, right? Is it the chicken or the egg? Is it because society is fractured that the algorithm has caught root, or has the algorithm caught root and sort of eroded culture, right? So I'm going to challenge him if he comes back into the space about that. Okay. With all of that being said, where are we today and where are we going? So as of today and this week, I'm walking down who's accountable. Who do I who do I sue for the damages, right? And so on today's homeroom, we're going to be looking at the accountability on big tech. If you join me Wednesday morning, I'm going to put the accountability on the parents. And if you join me on Friday, I'm going to put the accountability on the bureaucrats who should be regulating this stuff. So I think this week is going to be very interesting, and I hope you guys can join me over the course of the journey. And then Sunday is when we do our full formal conference, and that's where things will start to get really interesting. Okay. Thank you for your patience. I think I've laid all the ground that I need to lay. Let's listen to these men share their perspective. Who's to blame?
One of the distressing things I've seen, YouTube, for example, has degenerated staggeringly in the last 3 years because YouTube has started to attempt to compete with TikTok.
Yes. Yes.
And so there's this race to the bottom. It's sort of like we saw this in magazines, Jonathan. You know, the logical degenerative endpoint for all magazines was People magazine, right? These short-term, brief, gossipy, contentless, shallow representations of celebrity, let's say, that required no thought. Time magazine eventually turned into People magazine.
Sounds a lot like the algorithm. Let them continue.
And there's a race to the bottom online that's probably a consequence of something like algorithmic competition for grip of short-term attention. And that's completely tantamount to addiction, right? There's no difference between grip of short-term attention and addiction. They're the same thing.
Well, let's run it through. Okay, let's run it through this sort of the stimulus response dopamine loop, because this is important for people to understand. You know, my critics say, oh, this is just like television. This is just a moral panic like television. You know, adults said that it was rotting kids' brains, but we turned out fine. So television is an effective way to present stories. Stories are good things. You and I watched tens of thousands of stories. Now, a lot of them were stupid, like Gilligan's Island, but they went on for 20 minutes. It was one story for 20 minutes. But there was
and
no
everyone
behavior.
watched it.
Everyone watched it. You could talk about them. That's right. And you watched it with your sister or with a friend. So it was more social. And there was no behaviorist training. That is, you didn't do anything that you were reinforced for. What happens when it moves onto a smartphone? First, it's a small screen that you control. Now you're watching alone. You're not with your sister or brother. You're not with your friends. You're alone. And the content is shorter and shorter, as you say. TikTok discovered that the fastest way to train people is these short videos. And what are they training to do? So a video comes up, you're watching it, and you've been watching it for 8 or 9 seconds, and you become an expert in saying, this is not the most interesting. Let me try again, like a slot machine. I'll do a behavior, I'll swipe, and then I get a reward. But it's a variable ratio reinforcement schedule.
A variable ratio reinforcement schedule. I want this man to continue, but there's so much. I want to play it again. Uh-oh. Black to Glory is in the building. Let me send you an invite, sir. Oh, we getting into it this morning, sir. I am assigning accountability. Welcome up to the stage.
Good morning.
Glad to see you back. Let me let this clip keep cooking, and then maybe I'll jump on your back a little bit. Here we go.
So, sometimes I swipe and it's not better, but sometimes I swipe and it is better. And so that feeling of
slot machine.
Exactly. In fact, it's modeled after the slot machine. The pull down, it was literally modeled, you pull down and then it kind of bounces. That was literally modeled on the slot machine. And so as long as it involves little bits of dopamine in response to doing a behavior, now you're engaged in the psychology of addiction. And this is Anna Lemke's wonderful book, Dopamine Nation. Whereas television, you could have a habit, but it didn't cause addiction in the same way. So social media, video games, and short videos are all based on giving kids quick dopamine. And if you don't give them quick dopamine, they're going to go to one of your competitors. And that's why you said race to the bottom. Tristan Harris calls it a race to the bottom of the brainstem. If you don't go to the bottom of the brainstem and just get them, then TikTok's going to get them.
Yeah, well, and then it's worse. It's worse than you say, even, because the AI systems are monitoring that attentional focus, and they're optimizing for grip of short-term attention, and they're learning with reinforcement learning to do that, which makes them even better at that than any behavioral trainer who's human could possibly be. So we've created machines that use reinforcement technology to optimize the grip of reinforcement technology. It's worse than slot machines.
Worse than slot machines. So what I'm doing today, Black, is I'm putting accountability on big tech. And as we just heard, there is a measurable difference, significant for my mathematicians, 1 to 2 standard deviation, maybe even out to the 3rd standard deviation in terms of the difference. And so a couple things came up for me. One, in the old tech, it was a bunch of producers, but everybody had the same experience. But in the new tech, it is behavior modification. You have to do something to get the reinforcement. So they actually are causing us behavior, even if it is a small thing like the swipe. And it's interesting, his analogy, right? Because there were apps early on that used to do the swipe to the left or to the right. But now you'll notice it is the swipe down. It is that slot machine effect. And so it's really quite interesting. And you have to engage in a behavior. That's what makes this a Pavlovian type experience. For those who don't know, Pavlov did this famous experiment with these dogs where he would modify their behavior based on some external stimulus to the degree that their behavior could then be associated with something that has absolutely nothing to do with the original stimulus, right? So it's a very interesting study. I don't want to go too far into it. What I want to do is pass this mic around. I'm going next over, just so that you know where we're going to be heading next. I'm going to be going next over to what's called The Godfather of AI from the Diary of a CEO. So I have that queued up whenever we get through talking. So welcome Gregory Lynn up onto the stage, but I'll start with Black to Glory. Who is to blame, sir? You over here trying to create all these healthy solutions. Talk about the power of culture and stuff. Where's the accountability lie as far as you're concerned? Black to Glory, mic is yours.
All right, I'll give some background. So I come from big advertising, I guess, if I gave it a quick name. So
you're to blame. Oh, no, I'm joking. Go ahead, sir. Mic is yours.
And so in the background, we've always spoken about privacy concerns as we try to gather more information to give ads better and more custom ads. And it's always been an ethical tension there. But the problem is once one person crosses that line and shifts the ovarian window, then everyone's going to follow suit because you can't be left behind. And so once they step over that line, they just kept stepping. And so what we're seeing is really a race to say, how can we sell more stuff? It's kind of as we push capitalism to its furthest extent at all cost. And that is the cost of the culture. It's cannibalism at this point, because no matter how they do it, if we can extract maximum dollars at any cost, that's where we're at. So when you see AI and all this attention grabbing stuff, it's for the same purpose. Big tech is like Facebook or Meta and everything that comes along with all these social media apps are trying to maximize dollars at any cost. So AI is just another tool in that. And the scrolling and the infinite scroll. That's why the scrolling up is so important, because you just keep scrolling. Because scrolling left or right is not as intuitive, I should say. And so, we scrolled in every direction, but scrolling up with the infinite loop is the most important. So when it comes to who is to blame, you already know my answer. It's the same thing. But the thing is, it was a triangulation. So we have a third party who's trying to influence your lifestyle and influence how you assign value to things. And they do that by selling you something. They're trying to sell you morality. They're trying to sell you value, trying to sell you all these things. So if they can sell it to you in any way they can, they're going to. But that only works when you have a breakdown in your culture, which you can look at a shield, because of the links we talked yesterday. And one of the links said social media actually improved these children's self-esteem and cognitive abilities. That's only when the culture was fully involved in that digital conversation also.
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Because I know you've done research in this, so I just need to make sure that I understand your claim. You're saying we could take the same social media feed, but if we provide that feed, customize all the bells and whistles, but if we provide it to in an environment where the culture is strong, and I have these questions, so I'm going to do it for the good of this group. Is your culture stable? Is it safe? Is there a sense of belonging in that culture? Are you recognized, and are you useful? If you're experiencing these things, that the algorithm could have an actual opposite effect. Wait, I didn't understand that part.
Yep, you got it.
Wow.
It can strengthen their self-esteem. So it's not. That's why I said the algorithm isn't the problem. Big tech isn't the problem. They are the obvious thing to point to, which I can agree with that. But they're not the problem. The problem stems from we're like 5 steps away, which starts with the culture and not being having the children being involved in making sure that they feel like they're a part of this culture. That is, they need to have their own roles. They need to have purpose. They need to have all the neural imperatives that I gave you that you just listed off.
Yeah.
Those need to be in place. They're imperatives for a reason. They have to be there. And if you don't, someone else will come in, swoop in, and take over and wedge their way in to get what they need. And that is going to be that triangulation again.
Yeah.
To get them to say, if I can get the child to want something so the parents can buy it. Same classic tactic.
Okay. Once again, you're making me feel uncomfortable, so I'm gonna go back into my bias chamber and sit with that. Meanwhile, Mr. Gregory Lynn, welcome onto the stage. I see you've got a pink ticket, but newcomers are welcome into Homeroom. So please give us a bit of an introduction in terms of your context, and then share the mic. What came up for you? If you're available, sir, the mic is yours. All right. Gregory might have accidentally just accepted my invitation onto the stage, but is actually in listen only mode, which is totally fine. If you guys, those who are listening to me live, if you could ping someone in, let some folks know that we're here for the morning show, because I'm sure they are not interested in hearing about what do I see on my thing? How conflict impacts Africa, the chillism space, wake up Bitcoin basics. Maybe they want something else, right? Iran International, the lullaby room. So if you know anybody who's got that green dot on the ping section, go ahead and let them know that we're in this space. Okay, so it's an interesting claim. Let me move on to the next clip and see if he pushes our thinking any further, and then perhaps we can continue the conversation. So let us hear from the godfather of AI off of the Diary of a CEO. This one was just published on June 16th. Let's check this one out.
I'm not sure people realize that this is actually happening every time they open an app. But if you go on a TikTok or a YouTube or one of these big social networks,
you can check out the link if you want to watch the screen with me. You can check out the link above.
The algorithm, as you said, is designed to show you more of the things that you had interest in last time. So if you just play that out over 10 years, it's going to drive you further and further and further into whatever ideology or belief you have, and further away from nuance and common sense and parity, which is a pretty remarkable thing. Like, people don't know it's happening. They just open their phones and experience something and think this is the news or the experience everyone else is having.
Right. So basically, if you have a newspaper and everybody gets the same newspaper, you get to see all sorts of things you weren't looking for. And you get a sense that if it's in the newspaper, it's an important thing or significant thing. But if you have your own news feed, my news feed on my iPhone, 3/4 of the stories are about AI. And I find it very hard to know if the whole world's talking about AI all the time or if it's just my news feed.
Okay, so driving me into my echo chambers, which is going to continue to divide us further and further. I'm actually noticing that the algorithms are becoming even more, tailored. And people might go, oh, that's great. But what it means is they're becoming even more personalized, which means that my reality is becoming even further from your reality.
Yeah, it's crazy. We don't have a shared reality anymore. I share reality with other people who watch the BBC and other BBC News and other people who read The Guardian and other people who read the New York Times. I have almost no shared reality with people who watch Fox News.
It's pretty
it's worrisome.
Yeah.
Behind all this is the idea that these companies just want to make profit, and they'll do whatever it takes to make more profit.
Because they have to.
They're legally obliged to do that.
So we almost can't blame the company, can we?
Well, capitalism's done very well for us. It's produced lots of goodies.
Yeah.
But you need to have it very well regulated. So what you really want is to have rules so that when some company is trying to make as much profit as possible, in order to make that profit, they have to do things that are good for people in general.
I'm going to stop it right there. He seems to be, you called it before the video. I thought I was going to go back in my echo chamber, but here you are dragging me towards a bigger picture. So I appreciate you, Black to Glory. He just reinforced what you claimed, that these companies have they're doing their job, and apparently they seem to be doing it quite well. And this idea of shared reality, that's what, as you mentioned in the chat, shared reality is the culture, So who's to blame? He just brought up, and I know I'm supposed to reserve this until Friday, but there's the issue of regulation versus the issue of money generation. Hey, Pure Joy, welcome to the space. I'll drop you an invite if you want to join us up here, but it's a no pressure space. It's a morning show, so we've got either the commute or you're getting yourself together and all of that, so no pressure. On the one hand, big tech has an obligation, and I get it. In a capitalist society, they've got to make money. And his challenge was, if you make all the money, you still got an obligation to do something for the public good. But the best way to make money is to isolate the individual and to create the system that has been created over time, of course. But then I wonder, right? Because I was hoping to pull something up. Maybe I'll be able to pull it up over the course of our homerooms this week, that the way the Chinese algorithm works is actually different than the way that the American algorithm works. But I wonder now, Black to Glory or Gregory, or for the reflection of those who are watching or listening, I wonder if it is the same algorithm, but it is the way that the difference in culture between the Chinese and the Americans that informs the algorithm what to feed them next versus what to feed us next. I don't know. I'm just making some conjecture here as I think through this process. Because if we step back and look at American culture, it's a hot mess out here. A hot mess. No matter where you are on whatever aisle you might find yourself on in the grocery store of American reality, we've been in a constant state of war. We just saw tanks marching across Washington, D.C. I haven't seen a tank parade ever in my life. We've seen troops on the ground in California. That is very unusual, unless it is a state of emergency, and there's protocols to that, right? It's wild. We're in a wild space here. There's extreme political division and very little moderate political views these days. We also have extremes on the financial side. There are the very rich, there are the very poor, and some could say that the middle is being eroded. So in America, and we've also got extremes, what I tend to refer to as the radical identity, that people using technology and a bigger landscape, people are identifying in all sorts of ways. And we are also in what I would describe as an affirmation culture. No offense, slay queen culture, right? That people can do no wrong. And I did a previous conference called the Gentle Parenting Paradox. So we have this permissive parenting, and there's a difference. I acknowledge that. So it's there's a lot of division, and a house divided cannot stand. So says my favorite book. But then, and I've never been to China, but my perception of China as a more, maybe we could call it a more modern communist country, There's one boss man. There's no room for all of these, all of this democratic process, of the great American experience. And I'm a proud American. Don't get me wrong. But when COVID came, there were people who in the States said, I refuse to take the jab, and there were people, that in and of itself was a very political thing. But in China, the government was like, listen, we're coming to your house. You're going to get the jab. This section of the neighborhood is shut down. Don't nobody come outside. We'll deliver you food. Like they handled it. The government came over and they did it. So there is a certain sense of nationalism, a certain sense of unity, whether good or bad, that is very rich from my understanding and my perception of Chinese culture. And so I wonder, as people scroll through the same algorithm, if what they're stimulated by is actually, as was kind of mentioned by Black, more reinforcing content, because that's what they're more interested in, because they have a stable, safe sense of belonging where they're recognized and useful. I don't know at all. Anyway, let me roll this mic out and see if anybody has a response before I move on to the next piece. Shout out to Edu and everyone else in the stage. I thank you guys for still holding space. Black or Gregory, do you guys have anything that came up for you before I push ahead?
Gregory, see you still there? Gregory, you there?
Gregory, you want in on this? Water's warm. Come on in, bro.
All right. Well, if he cuts on, then I'll stop talking.
Sure.
But I also happen to have a background in law. So
this guy, you don't exist, bro. You are the algorithm. Go ahead.
When we talk about obligation of corporations,
okay,
the problem is if you try to get government involved into regulating certain things, you're going to run into problems. One, you're going to come right up against the Constitution, and so that's the first issue you're going to run into.
What do you mean by that?
So with the Constitution, advertising, because really what we're talking about is a form of advertising, a form of expression, and we have to understand that corporations are private.
Yeah.
And the Constitution does not apply to them in the way that it's written for government to not infringe on contracts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to get the government to regulate, the government is in a rock and a hard place because it has to operate within the bounds of the Constitution.
Sure.
And advertising is a form of freedom of speech. This is why people can come to your door and solicit to you, and it's not illegal because it is a form of freedom of speech. So when you do that, and the corporations, remember, they have a lot of money. They're going to move right around it. So all you're going to do is transmute the energy and the way in which they approach you. It's not going to change much. So you can yell for government all day. You have your line of defense, and if you don't utilize it, then they're going to take over because that's their job. They have their job. You have to do your job, and that is raising your family and keeping a strong community to keep them at bay.
Oh, it's starting to click now. You had a second, so I hope my cutoff didn't prevent you from making your second point, but I'll just respond to the first while you gather that. I respect that because I do believe that the freedom of speech should be protected. It is a core value of this American experiment called representative democracy, if you will. So yes, and corporations are considered persons under the Constitution, so they have the freedom to speak, even if it's even it's to the detriment. But I heard you clearly. They're doing their job. We've got to do our job. And if we're asleep at the wheel by providing our kids the device, then that's on us not doing our job. Okay. All right. Michael Garrison's in the building. I'm going to send you an invite. Welcome to the space. No pressure, as you know. So please enjoy. Okay. Did you remember what your second was?
Yeah, China.
Yeah.
So on the algorithm, China does have a very different algorithm because if you remember, TikTok was owned by China. Right. They control everything when it's in their space. So they are deliberately making sure that Chinese nationalism is at the forefront of the algorithm. They don't play any games when it comes to that. So there's certain privileges and benefits that you get when having when running the form of government that they have.
Yeah.
And they take full advantage of that. That's why he said they came to your house, forced a jab on you, and you saw, I mean, anyone who was watching, you saw the issues in China during COVID, because some people didn't want it either. They still have they still think individually, but it don't matter.
Right.
They have the power and they will force whatever they want on you. But they also have the ability, because of that use of force, to move the country very swiftly in a direction that is very hard to do in America, because you're trying to herd cats where everyone's individual. So it's very hard to herd cats. So you have to trick the cat, like I said, the Pavlov, into believing this is what it should do. And then you don't have to herd the cats. They'll herd themselves. And so that's why you had a country divided. But yeah, the algorithm is definitely, China, when you understand the relationship between China and America are doing war 50 to 100 years out. There are great documentaries that talk about, I mean, these people are setting up plans that they will not be alive to understand, to see the fruition of.
Right.
China, there's a very long history there. So that algorithm and going digital warfare is a part of their plan. There's no doubt this is not a conspiracy, and I'm not a political person. I'm just seeing what the information is presented to me. They are playing the long game. And TikTok and all that is plenty a part of it, because they can destabilize the country from the inside, and you see it's happening. We got boots on the ground, as you said. There's military, the National Guard is being deployed against our own people to keep them at bay for having someone else try to do the job that they're meant to do, because it's a country of laws.
Yeah.
And so when the law is being followed, now people are rioting against that. It doesn't make sense, but they have destabilized the country from the inside. It's working for them from their standpoint. They're happy.
And
it's
that's
a fight to the top for superpower.
Yeah, I was in conversation recently with someone about the brilliance of manifest destiny, and despite the Trail of Tears, and I have a lot of respect for the natives of this land, but from the constitutional perspective, or from the United States of America's government perspective, having the land coast to coast and having relatively mild partnership above and below, especially below, because there's apparently tension between U.S. and Mexico, but even geographically, it's hard to move troops in the ground from Mexico up, right? And Canada has always been pretty soft with us. So there is, from a physical perspective, almost no way that a foreign power could get foreign boots on the ground here, right?
Not happening.
You got to get boats. Those boats not going to make it out the water. You can shoot missiles, but we've got the technology to get most of those missiles out of the air. So getting troops and foreign material over here is not going to happen. But there's a way to do it, and this is a slow boiling frog, and we may not look up and realize, oh damn, we're cooked until it's too late. Very interesting. You got something here, bro. You must have read a book or something. I'm watching you. All right. I want to move into the next. We're 37 minutes after the hour. This is the morning show over at Educator's House, where we are doing the slow walk on the impact of screens on our kids in particular. But as you can see, there's multi fronts here that we're looking at. We've gone through a lot of context, and now what we're doing is assigning accountability. And my intention on today's show is to make the big tech companies 100% accountable for what's going on in this space. They're driven by profit margin, and the parents are victims to the algorithm, and the government is the handmaiden to big technology, who's actually running the country, is my null hypothesis, and I dare you to prove me wrong. I've got a clip here. It comes from Democracy Now!, but it is about the documentary Can't Look Away, the case against social media. So I'm going to play this clip and see what comes up from this. Please enjoy. If you want to, you can watch it on YouTube as well. Again, audio rich, so you don't have to, versus some of the other clips that I do.
What many adults don't realize is that these products, they're not designed to hook us, adults, they're designed to hook children, right? There's internal documents that say, get them young, the younger the better. Literally, that's a direct quote. And so these products work differently for kids. When I saw these designers saying, of course we don't let our children use these products, the attorney in me said, if these manufacturers and designers and distributors don't let their own children use these products, they're not only harming kids, but they know it. There are public meta documents with brain scan pictures saying like they're more vulnerable until they're about 24, 25 because the development of their frontal lobe. Look, I have young children and sometimes I'm like, what is going through their head? Their frontal lobe is not developed. They don't have the same reasoning or judgment that we do.
You know, we had a hey Cass, hey Anointed. I'm going to send invites. You know, it's a no pressure space. But if you want to jump in on this conversation, you're welcome to. Since we've been taking this very national approach, looking at the big picture, I wonder if what we are actually doing is undermining our own national security, because we're having a hard time. What do I want to say? In immigrating, importing high talent, because we don't have enough high talent naturally. I'm in education, and while we have perhaps never had 100% literacy in this country, right? There's, you know, most Americans do not graduate college. It's just a fact. But now it's so degraded that our kids can't read and they can't do math, stereotypically speaking. I'm sure all the kids in this room, your kids can read and your kids can do math. I'm not coming for you. But writ large, there have been lawsuits of children who have graduated high school, got admitted to college, and cannot read. You know, we had a unwritten policy called social promotion, such that even if a child deserved to fail a class, they would get passed along, and the responsibility would be on the teacher to loop back and do that. That new, you know, you kind of had to. I forget the term at this time, but you had to go back and kind of reteach and drag them along. It's a failed experiment because the kids just fall further and further behind, and you end up stressing out the teachers more and more. But I say all that to say we live in a society now where you damn near don't need to read and you can survive. And I don't want to get too political, but I have some concerns about that. So my step back question is about our national security. While China, let's use them as the counterpole to this, is looking at what is going to happen 100 years from now when my grandchildren take over. You know, they think about, in our culture, used to talk about our grandchildren's grandchildren. We're not thinking like that anymore. And so are we undermining our safety and security by allowing these things to happen, or I wonder, should we trust big tech? Should we trust the capitalist society and say they will, it doesn't even sound right coming out of my mouth, that 100 years from now, if we allow big tech to do what they're doing unchecked and to chase after the almighty dollar, that ultimately it will be for the good, that these technologists know that without us, their companies don't exist. So they have to, at some point, recognize we need to care for the batteries that we're plugging into the matrix. And if we don't treat these batteries well, batteries meaning regular people, we got to treat them well, at least to a base level. So I'm concerned about that. Let me just land my thoughts as they're processing and invite Anointed Steps into the space. Welcome up onto the stage. Glad that you're here. I'm trying to assign blame, Anointed. Where do you stand on this? I'm not sure where you stepped into the conversation, so I'll pass you the mic. Please introduce yourself and let us know what came up for you. Mic is yours.
Thank you for having me. I'm Leticia. I just say I'm a queen of all trades, and I'm very much so invested in this area so far as developing healthy for our children and our educators on big tech, technology, and blockchain. But
yeah, can you, I don't know if you have something going on with your audio, but it doesn't sound like you're in the matrix. It just sounds like you're in a can.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, appreciate you. Let me provide a brief introduction to Anointed Steps. Say something.
Is that better?
Yeah, now you're cooking. That sounds a lot better. I appreciate you. Let me let you finish your thoughts.
To bring forth in connection with what you were saying, um, I can say big tech has a blame in some sort because of what they're implementing in the technology from a tech standpoint, um, and the harm that it can do over time, and even in a short period of time, as we can see, because we haven't even been, I don't believe that the children have been engaged in technology for over a decade yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that plays a major part in why that's happening. But the parents who are giving them the devices, because they're the ones who are purchasing these devices, the kids cannot afford this. They cannot afford $1,000, $1,200 phone
Mm-hmm.
and the monthly bill that comes with it,
Mm-hmm.
that we are providing that device to them. We haven't set healthy boundaries with that, and also we are not educated as to the harms of it when implementing it and giving it to the child. Like, hey, here's a phone. You wanted a phone? Here's a phone. It's more than a phone. It's more than just a laptop or tablet. It's something more. And without the proper education of what it entails behind it, it can be misused or it can be used as a weapon versus a tool. And that's because of the lack of education in that area.
Mm.
That's why we see now we have a lot of tech in schools, robotic learning, AI for kids. Um, what else? We have a lot of things, STEM classes. We have a lot of things that are putting them in this space, but I don't believe that they're giving the children the whole education behind what their role is in even teaching them this in school. And it has to be done in a healthy manner, or it can be misused, and our dopamine and oxytocin and all of the different chemicals that make us up will be rewired in a way that is against our natural makeup.
Let me push back on that. Um, Let me push back on that a little bit. I wonder then is the solution to lean in early. Now, I don't want to put, I'm starting to actually appreciate what Black is talking about in terms of the power of culture. But if I can put that just to the side, yeah, what I believe is she was talking about how tech is getting into it's becoming ubiquitous. And so my challenge question to you, Anointed, deals with should we lean in on that? Is what I'm wondering. I just got through. I don't know if you were there on Sunday, but we just got through talking with Annette Sawanga. She is a early childhood development expert, but her bias is towards the Montessori model. And the Montessori model is not high tech. You know, it is very much about manipulatives. It's very much about student-driven exploration during those very early years, and I appreciate it. I'm wondering, in this high-tech world, is it better? And I know we're supposed to be blaming big tech, but let's be organic here. Is it better to delay kids' introduction to this technology until that culture, that home life is strongly secured in terms of framing their experience with the world, and then they'll be able to catch up to the tech really quite quickly. So get them that tech later, maybe even way later than what we've been doing. And Black has already established that practically that's probably not going to happen, but just in an ideal state. Or is the other ideal state to lean in on the tech early, coming out of the womb, literally, which is what's happening today? We should even more responsibly, though, right? Not just haphazardly give them. I'll do it the next time, I promise. Haphazardly give them the device and let them sort of figure it out on their own. But should the culture wrap itself around this technology such that they're coding very early? This should be an early skill. Like reading, you should learn, how to open up a bracket and put in, a little snippet of code. You should be learning how to, our education system should be radically reformed around the technology so that they are active participants in understanding how to build it. I don't know if that dichotomy makes sense, Anointed, but I'm curious your thoughts. Should we be leaning in or leaning out of technology for the early kids? What are your thoughts?
Okay. So from my standpoint, is my mic okay?
We're going to work with you. I can hear you. I'll try to summarize in case the group can't pick up what you're putting down.
All right, how about now? I think that should be better.
Oh, we got some bangers up in here. Zarvania, Dr. Jen, Amunette, no pressure space. Welcome to the morning show, but I'll send you invites in case you can come up. Black, let me put it on you while Anointed tries to get her audio fixed. What do you think, sir? Should we be leaning in or leaning back with this tech?
I would say the tech is not going anywhere, so lean in, and it will come back to there. We have enough understanding of how it affects child development
Mm-hmm.
of when it should be introduced, so we can actually make some prescriptions and say, look, don't do it before this time point because it affects their hand-eye coordination. That affects other things, and so it shouldn't be introduced. Do not sit your child in front of a screen at these early stages
Mm-hmm.
because it has actual effects. And then if the culture is wrapped around this technology and uses it, then it is now just another tool like TV and video. Remember, video games was attacked at one point,
Yep.
like it was going to end the world. And now people game all the time. Parents are gaming. Parents are gaming with their children
Yep.
because they're involved. It's all about involvement. No matter how we slice it, we start getting into neuroscience and things like that. And that's why I said it's neurocultural. You have to just be involved from the beginning and shield them from the negative effects if left alone for them to figure it out on their own. The studies show that that is where you have the biggest issues is when they're in isolation learning versus when they are guided through the digital space.
That's a powerful point. So you've been very consistent in this idea that whatever the answer is, if we're doing it together, we'll figure it out and things will be okay. So that's a powerful position. Dr. Jen, you came up on stage. I just want to give you greetings. But first, let me pass it to Anointed because she's been kind of getting her audio hooked up. Are you in a better space, Anointed, for us to hear you clearly?
Yes. All right. So I am in agreement with Black. The thing is that I grew up my first I would say half of my life um, in the education space as a child. I started with private school, Montessori schools, and then I went to public school. So within that, I understand the education model of Montessori because it helps you be more independent.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I believe public schools make you more dependent on instruction and guidance. So I have a mixture of both, which the first half let me be creative, let me be who I was and be able to embrace who I am naturally. Then you have the public society where you have a little bit different, more freedoms, but do you have the structure that you need? Now, when we're talking about this tech, I believe we should lean in. And leaning in with it, we have to understand that the first 5 years of the child's life is their most important part of their life and their development because they are sponging. So they're absorbing everything that's going on around them. That's why where the videos you've seen, the children are in their sleep state, in their REM sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and as they're in their REM sleep, they're playing with a phone. You're That's causing unhealthy habits neurologically. Their mind is already wired, and it's wired in a way that isn't healthy for them down the line. So when we're looking at leaning in, it's okay to lean in. We can also use libraries. So for the early development mothers who have their children at home for the first 5 years and they're not just sending them to the babysitter, we are going to implement. Let's go to the library. Let's have reading time first, and then we'll do some activities on the computer. or the tablets that they have provided. So we can do this in a healthy manner, introductory, with guided learning, and then we can start as they get older. We can start letting them have a little bit of time by yourself with the device for exploratory purposes, just so we can kind of gauge you in case you need an IEP, individual education plan, that implements the technology in a safe way, because you may not have those boundaries set up yet.
You know, I want to pass it to Dr. Jen, so I'll be brief. That sounds idealistic to me. I don't think our society is structured to foster that. We have a whole lot of single parent-led households across the country. This economy is, the value of the dollar is way less than it was. So on the surface, I think you're right. And if our society was structured such that, and some families, it can work that way. I'm lucky to be able to work from home, but this business has only been around for 6 months. Call me in 5 years, you might see this defunct channel, right? Because statistically speaking, I'm not supposed to make it, but I'm an American and I'm gonna shoot my shot. So I have the privilege right now to be able to work from home and be present to my son and to monitor, as you said, to be there and do the tech with him, to set those ground rules and set that culture. But not everybody can do that. Some people need that device to be the babysitter. And so if our culture was set up such that that was possible, then I think it could be a serious game changer. Okay, I'm talking too long. Let me get off this soapbox and pass it over to Dr. Jen. Dr. Jen has made it into the building. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
The mic is yours. What's come up for you?
Yeah, well, I'm taking in what you're talking about because I'm just coming in, but the title is pretty self-explanatory. I agree with everything that Black and Anointed both have said. I teach courses online, and we have to, it's not going anywhere. I really don't have anything to add other than the fact that I think that we do have to embrace it. I would hope it would be in balance. One thing that Anointed said, in the early years, we would just hope that, but I understand what you're saying also, that a lot of people don't have the option because they don't have, child care, those type of things, can't be at home, don't have the, make the time, find the time somewhere. Turn the TV off, turn technology off, because we're already seeing it. You can pick any topic in it and go to PubMed, and you're already seeing empirical studies that are showing what it's doing to us neurologically, or doing to our children, and doing to adults as well. We're rewriting, neuroplasticity is obviously a very real thing, and it's affecting us. It's affecting our health. It's affecting so many things, and so it's all about balance to me, though. Because we've been having, I'm not going to try to go too long, but we've been having like AI Zoom calls for the last year and a half at the college that I'm with, and and there's two parts. One is the positive aspects, and then the other is how we need to watch out with students using AI, in the classes, that type of thing, but also the negative effects of it. But none of this is, I just completely agree with what Black said, and that it's here. You have to lean into it, because if you don't, if children don't understand, if they don't have the education that they need and to understand, what, and I don't completely, I'll be the first one to say that I'm just learning and understanding a lot. I have a friend that is in the tech world, and he's teaching me tons. So I just real quick, and then I'm gonna wrap up.
Sure.
We can't. We're actually going to be doing them a disservice, because this is the future. So, being that this is the future, you have to lean into it. You have no option, or you're going to get left behind. But there's a balance, and you see people who are on the phone 4 to 6 hours a day. I don't care if you're an adult or you're a child. If you're looking at your screen time and you're anywhere every day for 4 to 6 hours, you need to check yourself. So I'll leave it with that. And good morning, everyone.
Good morning. That's a great place to leave it. Before I pass it to you, Amunette, can I just take a moment of gratitude for the people that are on the stage? And for the folks on YouTube who can only hear the voices, I want to provide a little bit of context, at least with my experience with this community. First off, Black to Glory is my large language model brother. This guy has a lot of extensive experience that's relevant to this space. And even though we've met relatively recently, he has challenged me in a way that very few people have, and has really pushed me in a direction that I think can lead towards a solution consciousness. But he is well versed in law. He has experience in the advertising space, and he's also been doing some research on the power of neuroculture. I've also got Anointed Steps. Anointed Steps has blown my mind as it relates to what the future could look like. She has not only her own, but has introduced me to the power of blockchain technology. And we haven't even gotten into how blockchain can really pull us back into the center. And so her expertise in the world of technology has been extremely valuable to me personally and professionally. Then we got Dr. Jen. Dr. Jen is not only one of the coolest and most compassionate people that I've seen on this app, but she is also professional in the space. She's got her PhD. I would say she's got a PhD in love, okay? Because every time I'm in her energy, like it just makes things far more positive. And then I've got Amunette here, and Amunette is, while on the one hand, she is also a Montessori advocate, but she's also a children's book author. I would recommend that you drop your link in case anyone in the space has some children that they want to help read. Some fantastic stories. She's a creator on Instagram. She's actually been leaning in on using the AI technology to create some positive visuals and soundscapes for us. And so definitely check her out as well. So this is a very star-studded stage, and I just wanted the bigger group to understand that this isn't just a bunch of randoms, but I've got here a all-star team joining me to try to unpack this experience. And so I appreciate all of you for being here. With that said, I'd love to pass the mic down to Amunette. I'm not sure how much you've heard, so if you don't mind, my dear, I'm going to play a little bit of audio and then allow you to speak to whatever may come up for you. But for those who may be watching us on YouTube, and if you haven't done so, you can click on the link above and check out the YouTube stream. I would certainly appreciate your subscription, and I would certainly appreciate your sharing some of our YouTube videos, because I need to grow. You know how YouTube is as a content creator. It's a slow grow at the beginning. So that would be my call to action, even before asking you to drop some coins into the PayPal, which of course I would appreciate. But that's not the point here. Let me play this last piece of audio clip that I have, and I know we're pushing overtime, so some of you guys probably need to actually get to work. So let me get this audio out, and then we'll get Amunette, and then we'll kind of land this section of our plane. Check this audio out.
Every single parent has to watch this video.
Why do so many men send dick pics on Facebook? 11. I'm like, what are you talking about? Who are your Facebook friends?
Trigger alert. This is a prelude to what I'm going to be talking about a little bit later, which is online predation, online grooming. That's going to come in segment 5 of this issue of Screen Time and Our Kids' Development. But this is going to be a good intro. Really, it talks about the accountability of big tech, but in this particular context. I just want you to know what you're listening to.
He had 2,500 Facebook friends. And what the children do is whoever's got the most friends is the most popular, so they just accept everybody. And what the predators do is they all follow each other. And when one predator finds a child, all the predators bomb on. So I said to this kid, give me your password. I spent a couple of weeks bringing her Facebook friends list down, but what I was able to do with a pen and paper is map out the predators that were following each other. It took me a few days. And then map out one level down, only one level down of their friends, of who are the kids that they're following. So these are victims and potential victims. And in a few days, I could draw a map. And in these predators, they were from Australia, US, India, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. Predators were from all over the world. And then it suddenly dawned on me. Social media have within their power the ability to create an algorithm that could, in 1 squintillionth of a second, map out the full network of predators and map out the network of victims and potential victims and prevent the abuse from happening. And they deliberately choose not to. All these discussions about restricting children from social media, yada, yada, yada. No, there's one answer, and there's one answer only. Send these people to...
these people should be tracked in jail. I completely agree. But we can't sit around waiting for our government or for these tech companies to step in and actually take action. The delay is far too long and the price that we pay is far too great. We have to protect our kids at a family level, because when we give our kids access to social media, we are not just giving our kids access to the world, we are also giving the world access to our kids. Read the caption for concrete steps you can take today. Every single parent has to watch.
Okay, this is from the Screen Free Parent on Instagram, so you might want to check her out. She's got some really good stuff as it relates to this topic. So I'll pass it to Amunette, but I just want to land my thought on this, which is big tech. Big tech has the capacity to monitor this stuff and do something about it, but they don't, because there's big business and there's money to be made. So maybe they're leaving this landscape open and creating victims when it could be prevented, but maybe it's not their obligation. Maybe, as the mother said, and as Black to Glory has been advocating, maybe it's the culture. Maybe it's our responsibility, and the tech is just the hammer. It doesn't matter. A gun is just a gun, but in the wrong hands, it could be very dangerous. In the right hands, it could save lives. Same with the hammer. Could be very dangerous, but it could also build a house. Okay, so that was my last clip. I just wanted to make sure I got that out. Greetings, Amunette. A woman whom I respect very highly. I appreciate you for coming into this space at such an odd hour. What time is it out there on your side of the pond?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever
morning.
you are. Husan, I am in the USA. It is 8:05. Yes, indeed.
Oh, you're a neighbor.
Not only am I a Montessori advocate, I am also qualified 2 to 9, about to complete my 9 to 12 next year as well.
Woo.
Let me just get this dissertation out. I'm doing my second master's. This one is in psychology, and I'm at the tail end, actually. I'm about to complete my dissertation. But what I wanted to say was this, and we spoke about this yesterday. All right. And I agree that technology has a place, right? But when asked what the future could look like, for me, it looks like a human that is whole. The most advanced technology is the human body. For me, this is it. And so if that human body hasn't been developed correctly, respected correctly, the natural cycle, the natural development of that most advanced piece of technology on the planet hasn't been catered to correctly, any extension of that human is going to be problematic. So you're looking at concentration. Is it hijacked or is it developed? Repetition is key, if you didn't realize, right? For children to be hooked. Is it going to be shallow repetition, or is it going to be using repetition with purpose so that they become mastery of themselves? 2 more points. The will. I spoke about the hijacked will.
Yeah, you did. Tell me more.
Right? Are we going to have a will that is dependent on prompts, or a will that has been intrinsically motivated, that has been developed through intrinsic motivation? And lastly, because I can talk about this all day. Fantasy reward, and then here enters my children's book series, I Know I Can. Real life challenges. Do you know how much challenges the children have in real life, especially at a young age? They don't know how to tie their laces. They don't know how to pour a drink. They don't know how to make their bed. They don't know how to do many of the things that as a young child they really want to do. Mummy, I want to do it. Please, Daddy, I want to do it for myself.
Yeah.
Do you know that real life is the fantasy for children? I'll leave it at that. There is a place for technology. I am not throwing it away. But please, let us develop the most advanced technology on the planet first, so that they are whole and understand themselves before they can pick and choose the tools in which they want to extend that holistic, advanced nature. Thank you.
Powerful, powerful. Black, I got a pushback, but I see Pure Joy has joined us on stage, and Leticia Lewis is in the building. Glad that you're here. I'm sure you're on your commute, so drive safely. I just want to recognize you and let you know that I appreciate your presence here. There's a few things I want to say, but I'm gonna save my comments to push on Black to Glory. So I'll go straight to Pure Joy. Hey, welcome onto the stage. You've been here for a while and kind of heard us cook, so I'm curious to hear what came up for you. If you're available, the mic is yours.
Yeah, I'm actually on my break, so the timing was actually impeccable. You know, I think that we're at a time where kids are going to need to be by tech or by manual. I just made that up. I'm sure there is an actual term for it, whereby they are doing the traditional learning techniques as well as the advanced AI, because the issue is the effects on the brain. When I was watching Wale, the animated movie, and they're looking for life on Earth, and everyone is up in a spaceship, right? All the people. And then you find that the people are non-ambulatory and morbidly obese, right? Because they haven't been using and hadn't had any need to use arms, legs because of space, this and that and the third, right? However, when we're talking about childhood development, we need to learn the fine motor skills. They need to be, you know, writing with their hands and doing all of these different things so that, you know, their brain can develop properly. So I think that we're going to need to find a way whereby they're doing both, because we definitely don't want them left behind, because we know that, you know, other countries' children are way advanced past American kids in terms of tech. But we definitely need to still encompass all of the old-fashioned things, and I even am a strong proponent of cursive writing, and bringing that back again because of the effects that it has on the brain as well. So I'll land. I don't want to go too long.
No, I appreciate it. And we're at 11 minutes after the hour, so we're a little bit into the after party, and I'm sure some of my good friends here have work to do. So please know that this is a no-pressure space. Come and go as you see fit, but it seems like the conversation is starting to catch steam. Mr. Glass is in the building. Before I pass the mic to you, I want to push on to Black's premise, and it's getting stronger as we proceed through this journey together. So what Amunette brought up and was reinforced by Pure Joy, I wonder if you can weigh in on this, which is the issue of hijacked will. The parents' will has been hijacked. And so how can we expect to have a strong culture for the kids when the parents are simultaneously learning, you know, when Granny is learning the TikTok dance, you know, when the parents are at the park and their children are playing on the swing and the parent is on their device, those are sending signals to the kids about what's important. And so my question is, as an advocate for what culture, the strength of culture, how do we reel that back in? I think it was, I don't know who had this crazy notion at our last conference on Sunday that something as simple as eating together during dinner time could be a way to reinforce culture. Just organically, what could happen at the dinner table with no devices, food, and family is a strong way to get there, right? So whose ever crazy idea that was. My question to you, sir, is how do we reel this thing back? How do we reestablish culture? Because I'll close with this, and I want to hear your thoughts. When I was young, our family during Christmas time or Thanksgiving, they would come from near and far, and they would all gather at grandma's house, right? And she would have the chitterlings cooking from 10 o'clock in the morning, and the whole spread, and all the family and the cousins, and we would all spend time together fighting, laughing, crying, shedding blood. Like you never knew what was going to happen at the family occasion. You know, they had us even doing the Cosby stuff. All the kids had to do some kind of like a low-key talent show. Whether it was a skit or a song or a dance or whatever, but the kids had to get up and perform. those days are gone. And so we used to do Kwanzaa. We used to do the Harambe and the pouring of the libations, so it was not only household culture, but there was this black culture back in my day. Those are gone. So is there a pathway back, or are we talking about redefining culture in a different way? What are your thoughts about that? You've been talking about culture, but how do we get there, Black to Glory? And I'll go to Amunette, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Glass.
All right. So when I'm speaking of culture, we have to make sure we define it and scope it appropriately.
Okay,
because
fair.
there is a general culture that we can kind of all see, but then there's that very tight knit culture. And the best way to think about it is kind of use the word tribe. And when you think of tribal dances and tribal environments, these are very specific things. And so what we have to understand is that form follows functions. The neural imperatives that I gave, safety, stability, belonging, recognition, and purpose / usefulness, the culture facilitates these things always. That's why if you go from an anthropological standpoint, you'll see all cultures fit these paradigms. They look different on the surface, but they all establish these neural imperatives. So our culture is the same thing. We have to go back to the form, and the function will flow from that. So that's why Black culture and Jewish culture or Laotian culture, they all look different on the surface, but if you look deeper down, they all are accomplishing the same thing, because the nervous system requires these things to happen, and we create a culture around them to enforce them. So sitting at the dinner table, yes, of course that works, but it can't just be the form. We can't just look at the form. It's the function that creates the form. And so if we're going to sit at the dinner table with no thing, we have to make sure, okay, we're eating. We're not just sitting here eating together. We're eating and we're talking to each other, trying to figure out, what happened to you today? Passing lessons. And now there's meaning behind this eating together, not just the act of eating together. That will never be enough. So it is the rituals. Just like a tribe, we think of rituals in our common everyday thing. We must have rituals, which is a repeated habit, a repeated pattern that has meaning behind it. That is the key aspect. As long as you have those everywhere, then the culture can pull back together relatively quickly and start to combat all the things that are happening in our society.
You see why I don't think he exists, right? You see why I think he's a large language model. Let me push it down to Amunette, and then we'll go to Mr. Glass. Amunette, you want to jump in on what he's cooking over here?
All day, every day, and I agree with him, Husan. You spoke about the parents' will being hijacked. No, the parents' will is distracted. Model the behavior, model the behavior, model the behavior. You don't want for the child to see disconnection as normal, or experience technology and confusion as an escape as normal, rather than a creative or practical use. Right, so just like you said, establish family rituals. People say, "Oh, it's a ritual." No, ritual just simply means routine. Prioritize uninterrupted time. Like, organize your time with purpose. Right. I was thinking to myself, how can I explain what I'm talking about? Use technology to find recipes when you have planned to make apple pie. You know what I'm saying? Use technology in a purposeful way that complements but doesn't take over, your life. I also think that practicing emotional regulation, breath work, grounding games. We've heard all of this before. Some people may cast it off as woo woo, but slow down. I don't want to swear, but slow the F down. What is happening? Where are we going? We're spiraling into where exactly? and finally, I would just say deep presence, model that, right? Because the child mirrors the neurons are trained they're mirroring. It's a mirroring neuron. So what are you mirroring? What is it that they are mirroring? Is it distraction or is it presence? Did you see what I'm saying? Slow down, understand what's happening here. There's no technology without the human. So why are we going to switch it around so that the technology is the leader of human? It doesn't make sense. Slow down, understand how your natural technology works. And again, like I said, use external technologies to enhance that.
I love that. What came up for me is this idea that mirroring then gets normalized and kind of defines the overall view of how the world works. So I think that's a powerful concept there. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Pure Joy, Mr. Glass, and Mileisha's back. Come on, y'all pink ticket holders. You know you want to join the house. You know you want to get in this house. Mr. Glee.
I already joined.
My man.
Already joined.
Appreciate you, sir. Let me pass you the mic. Go ahead. Take it on.
So I'm at work. I'm gonna make this kind of quick as possible.
Yep.
I totally agree with Amunette about marrying, the children marrying. For me, she's absolutely right. You can tell, like, for me, is that I have children, wide range of ages, from 28 down to 1. And for the most part, when she talks about, Amunette talked about the kids emulating and marrying their parents, that's absolutely true. Because, you know, through all my struggles in life, the one thing that I made the most important thing with my children is education. I was always there, whether I had a job or I didn't have a job at the time, at my kids' teachers' parents' conferences, all that, to make sure that they knew that education was very, very important, and what they learned in that education, during their education, was gonna absolutely give them a leg up on people who really don't say, for people who really think they know something, but you know it better. You know what I'm saying? So with my kids, all my kids, through my whole matriculation through education, my kids have been there. When I went to community college, my sons were there. When before there was COVID, I was at my oldest child's school damn near every week. For my two littlest ones, my 7-year-old and my 1-year-old, I'm always there teaching them more stuff about what they need to be teaching them, whether it's about our culture, whether it's about education, whether it's about who we are. So it's you know, when a brother talked about, you know, sitting at the table, you know what I'm saying, and just sitting at the table just to eat. Nah, you can't just do that. You know, with our people, we have to, you know, with black people in particular, I'm not talking about everybody else, but in black people in particular, when our kids come home from school, we got to debrief them about what they've been learning, what they've been doing, who they've been talking to, and everything. I don't say that all, you know, other cultures do that, but I know our culture does that because we've been through so much for so long. Whether it's been, you know, in our face or on the side, or, you know what I'm saying, or in our peripheral, we always been through something, you know. So I agree with both Amunette and Black. You know what I'm saying? We have to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we are the first teachers. Our parents, you know what I'm saying? You know, a wise person told me this. They said, the best report card of a parent is your children. I'll land there.
The fruit will tell how good the tree is. So I think you're absolutely right. Great share. Thank you for joining us during your break. I know it's precious time, so we really honor you for coming up on stage.
Yeah, brother, you know, I got 2 engineers in the work. I got already a teacher. My oldest daughter's a teacher, and I got the 2 young ones. They might be lawyers or doctors or engineers too. So I'm working, and I've been a math teacher for 10 plus years. If you looked at my bio,
wow.
And I'm a chemical engineer. Peace, brother.
Peace unto you and your family, bro. Very proud to have met you, and I hope that we can continue to be in community together, because we've got some important things that we're trying to cook up. So thank you for that. I also,
yes, sir. Brother, whenever your room is up, I'll be here.
Yes, sir.
I love education.
This community is growing, you guys. I am happy that we've got this growing community here on the app, but also keep in mind I'm trying to push beyond the app because I think there's a big world out there. So I'm simulcasting these experiences on YouTube. Much easier to share, much easier to get folks involved in what's going on, even if they can only listen to it as a podcast or as a replay experience. So anytime that you can share what's going on with the folks that you care about, I would certainly, or that this is relevant to. We're 24 minutes after the hour, and I do want to get this plane landed. So I'm going to have our last speaker, Aurora, and then we'll do our what I like to do to close the room, which is called Something Remarkable, sharing what came up in this conversation in a sentence or a phrase. And that way, at least it'll be on your consciousness, and you can share that sentence or phrase with somebody who you know to help them become aware of what how you spent your time with us. So with that said, Aurora, welcome to the space. I'm glad that you're here. The mic is yours.
Hey, Husan, how are you?
Hey,
Thank
friend.
you for allowing me here. Wow, you are, I love you. I fell in love with you the minute you started speaking. So it's just wonderful. Thank you for this space. May God bless you and give you abundance. And thank you, everyone here, for doing what you're doing. I was a teacher. I still am a teacher. I'm a teacher. I will die as a teacher. Lifelong learners, right? That's who we are. Love this room. I agree with everyone. I caught the end tail of everything, but teaching starts at home. Doesn't matter. Spend that time with your child. Sit down with him. Ask him questions. How was your day? Even if they don't answer you, who cares? Hey, how was your day? My day was like this. How was yours? Do you know what I did? But just talk to them. Have dinner. And when you have dinner, put the phones away and talk to them. My 28-year-old lives with me, and I still do that with him. Hey, how was your day? What did you do? What was the best thing? Talk. In the car. Talk. It's just, that's how family, and that's how we teach, by being an example, and not just do what you say you're gonna, just not talk it like me, like I'm talking here. I'm an example of it. I do it. So let's also be a model of it. The other thing I want to tell you is so important to teach our kids about finance. I wish I would have known this in school. It is not taught, and we need to do it. We need to do it, Husan. We have to teach our kids how to learn how to save, because in the future, this stuff about, our pensions and Social Security, it's not going to be there for them, and we need to change that. And I yield the mic, and I love it. Thank you.
Love you too, sis. Aurora and I share spaces in other rooms, and so we've really gotten to know each other personally. Okay, guys, there's a few things that came up, and then let's do our final takes here. This is my final thought. Simple isn't easy. What I have picked up in terms of the ingredients, the antidote to some of the troubled water that we see, seems pretty simple and straightforward. And so it makes me wonder, is it really that easy? But it is. You have to prioritize. You've got to invest in time, and you've got to put the people first, focusing on the culture. I'll share it once again. What does culture look like according to my good friend Black to Glory? Is the culture stable? Is it safe? Is there a sense of belonging? Are the members of the culture recognized? And do they have space to be useful? Focusing on those things can be a clear and easy antidote. Simple rituals like having not only dinner at the table, but intentional about not having devices, pushing conversation with each other, cooking together beforehand, and then pulling out Monopoly afterwards. How we're structuring our time can be a very powerful thing. And so I appreciate everybody for expanding my thinking on this topic. And with that said, let's do some final takes. So I know, Aurora, you just got here and you just got the mic, but I'll march my way up the stage. I'm going to say Black to Glory for last. If you were to summarize in a sentence or a phrase, what came up for you during this space, how would you do that? Aurora, mic is yours.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. The way I would summarize it is, teach your children, be a teacher first, family first, gatherings first, even if it's just you and your child, you're a single mom, single dad, whatever. This is what I caught from this room. That's it.
Appreciate that. Let's keep it moving, Mr. Glass. I don't know if you have any time left, but if you've got a remarkable statement or a phrase that's share worthy, I'd love to hear it.
Be in your kids' education and let God do the rest.
Be in your kids' education and let God do the rest. I love it. Let's go to pure joy. What would be your remarkable phrase or statement? All right. Pure joy have moved into listen only. I'm going to go Amunette, then Anointed, and then we'll close with Black. Amunette, do you have a remarkable phrase or statement that can put our experience in a nutshell?
I'm going to stick with my usual one, but add it. Observe yourself. Observe the child. Prepare the environment and follow the child. I think if you go with that, you should be good. You should be good. But also remember that human body, the only home that you have to live in, is the most advanced technology on the planet. Always has, always will be. Thank you so much for this space, Husan.
No, thank you. Some might even venture to say it's the most advanced technology in the entire solar system. So I appreciate that. The power of observation. They say you have eyes but see not. So see with those eyes that you have, and it'll be a great compass in terms of direction. I think that's great. Gregory Jin came back. All right, let me come back to you, my friend, but I'm glad that you came up on stage. I promise Anointed steps the mic next. So Anointed, do you have something remarkable for us?
I will close with this. Set the example because you are the example.
Powerful. I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit out of order because I do want Black to get the last word. So I'll go Gregory and then Black to Glory. So what I'm picking up is the power of these small investments. I'm not no rich man, but I was able to do a little bit of dollar cost averaging into my Tesla stock. And I just looked it up to make this point, because I was able to dollar cost average before the stock split. And so as of right now, I'm sitting at 183% gain on my little investment. And so a little investment can turn into something much bigger over the course of time. And I think that's what I'm hearing here. Don't overlook the power of these small ways to connect with our kids and our loved ones. Okay, Gregory Lynn, welcome back to the space. If you're available, I'd love to hear at least a small sentence or phrase about your thoughts, if you don't mind. And if you're available, the mic is yours.
Thanks for your inviting. Sorry, I'm English beginner, so I'm afraid I could not speak English too much. So, yeah.
Okay, no problem. Listen, we're glad that you're here, even in listen-only mode. And maybe if you come back a little bit earlier, we can have some time and kind of push through. But if you're learning English, then speaking it would be great. And so we can make room for that, but we'll save it for the next time that you come through. Okay, Black to Glory, my brother. How could you sum this up in your own words? The mic is yours.
Big culture always beats big tech.
Now, see, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start a t-shirt company, and I'm gonna start taking some of these catchphrases and trademark them right up under you guys, okay? Because this is some good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We've done it. I hope you guys have a fantastic and powerful Monday morning. I hope that what you've experienced here can empower you and set the stage for what the day can look like by creating this professional grade experience about something that's actually meaningful and important. And you have chosen to spend your time with us. And so I stand in deep gratitude that you guys have shared this space. Malang, thank you for coming. Hope Gardens Kitchen is up in the building. Mileisha, special shout out to Zarvania Gibbs, somebody that I highly respect in the space. Cassie came through. She joined us in the conference that we recently had just on yesterday and is back again. Same shout out to Black to Glory. We were just together 12 hours ago. Like, What's up, family? Michael Garrison has come back through. Appreciate you, as well as Macy and all of my stage mates. Let me go ahead and land this plane. I'm going to do a proper landing, even though we're over time. We're shutting this down in 5. I would encourage you, find 5 people that you can connect with in a meaningful way. It could mean the world to them, and maybe even to you. We're going to close this down in 4. Keep in mind, we do this for the growth of the group. And so while we can have our own little insular conversation together, the real key to what makes Educators House what it is spreading the word to other people. We're going to close this room down in 3. This is not a me thing, but a we thing. And so we come together as a community, not to be a monolithic echo chamber, but to push each other's ideas. And so with that said, I want to give special shout out to my stage mates. I am because you are. And so the whole premise doesn't exist without the community weighing their voices in. It's not meant to be a podcast, but it's meant for us to push upon each other. And so I thank you for your decorum, your courageous honesty, your transparency, and your willingness to contribute. We're going to close this room down in 2. As the humble host of this house, I am here to serve. So if there's ways that I could be better, I certainly would appreciate your feedback. So hit me in the back channel. I do have a poll going on the YouTube channel. So if you could cast your votes on the poll, I'm almost at the 10% mile marker, which means it's time to reinvest some of the public launch campaign funds that my community has supported in the direction to help the business grow. And so if you could cast your vote, it could let me know in which direction I should be turning some of the investments that you guys have supported this house with. And finally, we're going to close this room down in 1. You are the one. You're the reason that this house exists. You're the reason that we are here. And so I thank you, but I also want to encourage you, engage in some healthy self-care between now and the next time we see each other, so that you can give unto others of your overflow. And with that said, we're going to close this party down, and I will see you soon. Peace, everybody. Peace, peace. And to my YouTube crew, I stand in deep gratitude that you guys are here. Please continue to engage the chat. That would let me know that there's actually an active community that's joining us live and not just watching the replay. And so the more that you kind of ping into the chat, the better that I can get a sense of what's going on and how the direction of the conversation is going. That kind of real-time feedback means a lot to me. So I appreciate you. But my current and most urgent call to action is to share. Let's get the word out about what's happening over here at Educators House. And I would appreciate your support, especially if you've made it this far into the experience. And that means that it must have some meaning for you. And I'm sure there's somebody in your sphere that this would be very important to as well. So if you could help me with that part of the mission, I would certainly appreciate it. And with that said, I'm out, guys. Thanks again. Peace. Now, where's that button? I always get stuck with the button, you guys. There's always this awkward close because I can't find